Arsenal lose to PSV, get battered in a poor second half showing. Here's the match reaction. Let's go. Wagwan, everyone. I hope you're doing well and welcome back to another stream up on Tereak Talks. And as you can see from the thumbnail, from the title, and from this gloomy, whatever, I can't even think of any words, any adjectives or any vocabulary that can describe really that second half performance. Arsenal, we lose by 2-0. That was our second loss of the season. Our first loss in 10 games in all competitions. So yeah, there's ways of looking at it, but yeah, that second half, we'll get into it. We will get into it, I promise. But before you do that, big up to each and every one of you that's watching. If you are watching back on replay, I hope you're keeping well. Thank you for joining me. And thank you to those who are watching live as well. Let me know your thoughts. If you did get to see any of the game, whether you're an Arsenal fan or not, it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts. But people, let me know because well and truly, I am starting to get worried now with these second half performances. That's where the game was lost. 2 goals, 2 poor goals to concede. And let's be honest, really, it could have been more. This is quite raw. This is very shortly after the final whistle, which was about 20 minutes ago when recording this. But when we look at the game and when we look at it going into it, let's have a look at the starting lineup that we saw for tonight's game. Very strong once again, as we expect with Mikel Arteta in the Europa League. He has put out strong lineups with very little changes. There was 5 changes altogether going into this game. We had Ramsdale in goal, our first choice goalkeeper, due to Matt Turner having a groin injury. So we're thinking, okay, that's fine. Yeah, Matt Turner, he's impressed of late. He's grown into that position as that backup goalkeeper, started to adapt to life at Arsenal and the style of football under Mikel Arteta, which requires your goalkeeper to be competent with his feet. And we know that Ramsdale, that's one of his strengths. In fact, he's playing the ball out, his distribution. So we thought, you know what? We got our number one in there. You know, it's not bad. It's not bad to have Ramsdale in goal. Tomiyasu holding Saliba and Tierney. Not a bad back four at all. I thought Holding last week was very good. One of my contenders for man of the match, and he was my pick for man of the match last week against PSV at home. Then you think seeing Tomiyasu back on his natural side up against Cody Gakpo, and he marshaled him well, and he marshaled him well for the first half as well, although he did have that goal ruled out for offside. But then you're looking at Rob Holding and Saliba. It's a good centre-back partnership there with Kieran Tierney out at left back, who a lot of people thought should have started, and including myself in hindsight after the Southampton game against Southampton. But he started tonight, and he saw the midfield of Lokonga at the base, had a point to prove. There's been a lot of talk coming from him, not just from him, but surrounding him. Also, Xhaka, the man in form, Erdegaard, who's he's had spells in games which he's looked really good, and he's looked amazing. He's had massive parts of late. And when I talk about of late, I'm talking about since the Liverpool game, because I thought he was immense in that first period. He had spells as well in that game where he was good and then he was a bit poor. But we'll get into that. We'll get into each and every one's performance. And then we also had Vieira out on that right wing, and Ketia up top, and Martinelli out on the left. So yeah, you're thinking, right, only a few changes, and the players that have been brought in are players that have something to prove, are players that are going to be knocking on that door, who we're going to have to trust in Premier League games this season, given the amount of fixtures that we're having in such a short space of time. Injuries are going to occur. We're seeing other clubs and other teams in and around us suffering with injuries, and we're thinking, you know what? These guys are going to have to stake a claim, especially Eddie Nketiah, when we're seeing that going into it. And do you know what? I'm going to start off with a positive here. In that first half, I thought we were good. I thought, we were dominant. Well, we weren't great. We weren't, when I say good enough, that's what I'm saying. So we had possession. We dominated the ball. We controlled PSV. PSV only looked dangerous when we was moving lackadaisical and complacent with the ball. I thought Erdegaard didn't have a great... he was poor all game, let's be real. he was giving the ball away a lot, even to begin with. There was no urgency, no intensity. And, you've got to raise those questions of fatigue with this small squad that we have. You've got to say, are these players feeling the fatigue? Are they feeling the effects of such games in such quick succession? I think I heard a stat as well, like this is the third most games in a space of a month that Arsenal have played in their history. I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if number 1 or 2 was during that COVID period when games were coming in thick and fast in that stage. But yeah, so we know that this small squad, they are playing a lot of games. There's not really that much rotation for these Europa League games, as what a lot of Arsenal fans would probably hope for and want. But, I'm thinking continuity, we can build from that. First half, we were good though. We were controlling it. We was trying to move the ball through the lines. We created also a couple of chances. And by half time, we had 8 shots on goal, only 2 on target. I thought Martinelli had the biggest chance for Arsenal in that first half. With that ball that was headed across by Tomiyasu, who had an excellent performance in that first half, keeping Cody Gakpo, the man that everybody's talking about, with the second most goal involvements in Europe, behind a certain Erling Braut Haaland. So yeah, I thought he was handling him really, really well. Who's posing an attacking threat. We were trying to attack with Tierney, was keeping a lot of possession, but just wasn't quite finding that incisive pass or that little bit of class and creativity that we was lacking, that spark going forward. So yeah, I thought Fabio Vieira, he was one of the most impressive ones in that first half, really linking up well, beating his man. And you know what? Some food for thought. Him on that right side, maybe, but it was early days, so we was looking at that there. But the one thing that was worrying me was PSV managing to build on and create attacks through us. We was our worst enemy for PSV to create attacks in that first half, but they really didn't look at much more of a threat when they were in possession, trying to build attacks through a little bit of a, in a slow manner. They didn't really manage to do that. They didn't really have a focal point. Xavi Simons had a goal, and they're 2 goals disallowed, by the way. PSV, they're both offside, so they're both right decisions, but they were the warning signs. They were the warning signs for Arsenal that if you're not right, if you're not on it, if you're not going to be playing at such a tempo, with the way that we like to play, keeping the ball, playing it through the lines, this is where we needed to be more incisive and be more alert and be up on raising the level of our game. So you think in halftime, Arteta's going to speak to them. We're going to increase our level of performance. But this is where it gets worrying. And this is what we have to be honest as Arsenal fans. Out of the last 4 games, 3 of the second half performances have been woeful, right? Compared to the level that we have shown throughout the season. Yes, there's factors that play into that. Yes, I do think the fatigue is in there, and it's not just because of the Europa League or not just because of our small squad, which are factors in that as well, but with the games in such a short space of time. I think this isn't just what Arsenal, it's not going to be exclusive to Arsenal, this isn't. I think it's going to be the same for even your Manchester Cities, your Liverpools, of course, your any team that's competing in Europe, especially because with the games playing in such short space of time. Manchester United, they've struggled with it, and at periods not being able to keep their level of performance up throughout all of their games or throughout the majority of it. So yeah, but we've definitely seen that of late, and it's something that we got to think about. But yeah, the second half, right? The first goal, the ball is played into Luke de Jong. Rob Holding gets in tight, and he gets in on the wrong side of Luke de Jong. In that sense, he's not goal side. He's not gone to the goal side of Luke de Jong. He's tried to nick in front, but Luke de Jong has got his body position in the exact way where he's in control of this. No matter what Rob Holding does, if he tries to go through the ball, he can only go through the man, which is going to give a free kick in a dangerous area. And Luke de Jong, the direction that ball was coming in, Rob Holding takes a risk. And if you take that risk, you have to be a lot quicker and more alert, as I was saying, to the situation. He misses out. The second man run off Veerman, guess who he's off? Sambi Lokonga. And do you know what's a shame? Sambi Lokonga was really good in that first half, I thought, winning the ball under pressure, putting a lot of fires out when they were trying to build up some counter attacks. Thought his positioning was well. He was composed. He kept the ball better than Ødegaard. And Ødegaard, you'd expect him to be our most creative player and someone that was taking control of that. But you've got to have a look at these moments, which is getting worrying now for Sambi Lokonga, in the fact that he can have a good performance, he can play well for the majority of the game, and he'll just have that moment, that lapse in concentration that will cost us a goal. And guys, what am I referencing back to? You know what it is. It's that Manchester United game where I thought throughout the majority of it, he was good, playing good and well. Moved out of that central area, left the space open. Bruno was able to play and pick up the ball in that space after Eriksen played him through, and he could play it into Rashford, and Man United score. That's those moments. Sambi Lokonga shows his naivety, I believe. That and his lack of awareness, defensive awareness. We know that Arsenal and Mikel Arteta in particular has tried to play Sambi Lokonga in these positions before. Last season, when we went through those 3 games, 3 losses against Crystal Palace when he came in, but the game was already lost at that point. Brighton and Southampton. So those 2 games in particular. And yeah, we saw the level drop from Partey to Lokonga, just from a defensive point of view. In a ball progression wise, I do think Sambi Lokonga is really good, and he does give us that. But this is why I think Arteta has kind of changed his view on Lokonga in seeing him as more of an 8 rather than a 6. I think when we initially bought him, we wanted to mold him into that 6. I think we did. I think that's what we saw him as, because he can cover the ground well. He can read the game well. He really can. Like, we've seen him do it. I saw him do it in the first half. If you haven't seen it, Arsenal fans, go watch it. I promise you that first half. Don't watch the second. Don't do that. Don't put yourself through that misery. But he did have a good first half. But those moments, but they're costly. They will make or break your game. And it doesn't matter how you do throughout the majority of the game if you're going to fall asleep in those crucial moments in your own third and in your own defensive area. So at fault for me, that goal was definitely Rob Holding and Lokonga. But then Arsenal, we bring on Partey, we bring on Saka. In there, we try and we make changes straight after that first goal. But those changes, they don't work at all. They don't make us any more better. We don't gain any control in that. I thought, we tried to gain a bit of control, but the game really fell apart when Jesus was brought on for Holding. Okay, so that was where it went messy, and PSV could have easily scored 3 or 4. Honestly, we got battered in that second half. They were banging on the door. Ramsdale was making saves. We're defending in our box. Last ditch, more disallowed goals. What a ball from Sangare. And there are some PSV players that we have to big up and shout out. And there's some real quality players they've got there. Sangare was one of them. Xavi Simons, as the same from the first leg. He was their only performer in that first leg. He was brilliant tonight. Jared Braithwaite, Everton fans, on loan from Everton. They've got a real player there. And he's a young defender. He's learning the game. And this is what will give you a lot of optimism if you're an Everton fan. So, yeah, massive performance from him. I thought Mwene had locked off Gabriel Martinelli. But we'll get into Gabriel Martinelli and why I think he had that level of performance soon. But, yeah, we'll get into the second goal, because the second goal, poor set piece defending, which hasn't been a feature of Arsenal's play this season. I think in attacking and defending in both boxes, especially from set plays, we've been excellent. But this is where I feel we miss a certain Gabriel Magalhaes. He's been suffering with a lot of criticism this season for some errors, for some big errors, some high-profile errors in big games. But when it comes to defending the box, defending from crosses, defending deep, there's no better defender at Arsenal than Gabriel Magalhaes with his physicality, his reading of the game in terms of blocking shots, being aggressive, throwing his body on the line. This is why Arteta and Arsenal, we've given him that new contract, and why we persist to play him in so many games and play him and we don't have another left-sided centre back, so that's another factor. But why Arteta trusts him in so many games because of that physicality he can bring, which Luke de Jong scored that second goal deservedly, but let's be real now, it is an Aaron Ramsdale howler. He hasn't had many whilst he's been at Arsenal, but this is definitely up there. This was an awful. He came out for the ball. He decided to go and punch it. He missed the ball, and De Jong was there behind him to nod it into the back of the net. And Aaron Ramsdale, you saw his reaction. He winced at it. He knew that it was his error and it was his mistake, and he was the reason why that goal was conceded. So, yeah, individual errors, lack of control in this game. Arteta has to take some criticism as well in terms of the substitutions and relating it back to that Manchester United game once again, which is where Ed and many other fans spoke and non-Arsenal fans said Arteta went a bit too gung-ho in that game. And I was saying, you know what, injuries was the part to play in that. Players who just coming back. And I think, not excusing him. I'm just saying this is probably his reason for as well. He's thinking certain players managing their minutes, but there's ways of doing this and there's timings. He went gung-ho way too early, and that's where Arsenal lost the game, and it was too much of a mountain to climb. After that, when he brought on Ben White and Gabriel Magalhaes, we looked much better and we had more control, and we was getting into the final third a little bit more. But also, naturally, you're going to do that given the fact that you are PSV are holding on at this stage. They're 2-0 up. They're relatively comfortable. They can play in the counter-attack. But Arsenal, we was pushing for it. And yeah, we didn't get, we can't talk about really the referee today. He wasn't great. And there was a couple of decisions, but no real major decisions like we saw against Southampton, which definitely didn't go our way. Today, we just have to look at the performance and as big up each and every one of you that is in here as well. Big up yourself. And Ed says right there, you don't look happy, T. And this is why I'll tell you the reason why I'm not happy. That's because I am starting to get. I am worried. I will say in terms of the rotation that we have, the lack of it, the drop off within the first 11, right, and what that is causing. The issue that is causing us. This is, straight after the game. I might be being a bit reactionary. I might watch this back, or might think about it a little bit more. Might calm down. I don't know. But right at this moment, I am certainly worried because let's talk about some players. Eddie Nketiah, that's one. Eddie Nketiah. I've been defending him so much. I've been saying, you know what, the fact when you give this guy a run of games, he's not as bad as people think. Yes, he's not the level of Jesus, but he can bring you goals. He can bring you physicality. He's building that into his game. He's a natural goal scorer. I think he's an even more natural goal scorer than a Gabriel Jesus, but technically all around, he's building that part of his game. And we saw the development when he was being trusted week in, week out towards the end of last season. And he offers a real threat in behind also. But today, not just Eddie Nketiah, there was a lot of PSV players, but that hold-up play, he was slipping and sliding. He could barely get control of the ball. He couldn't really link players in with the attack, which is what you need from your striker when you're the lone front man. Couldn't really get the wide men into the game. But also another caveat I'll add for Eddie Nketiah is the person out there to the left of him. He didn't have a great game also. And that's the fourth. Is it the third? Yeah, it's the third game in a row now where I've looked at Gabriel Martinelli and I think that he is struggling with he just like as many players are, like he's not looking at his sharp best like we saw against Liverpool when he's head down, and he's driving at defenders, going left and right with the pace and the intensity and the aggression with his runs in and out, with and without the ball. We're not seeing that at the moment, and you've got to question why that is. And I'm sure Arteta, if he knew, he would solve it and he would address it straight away. But this is where I've got to look at, and we are missing Emile Smith role. And not just say, let's say for this game, but just to give Martinelli that rest, just to give Martinelli that kick up the backside. Reece Nelson, Arteta doesn't trust him, and when he has played, he hasn't impressed. So that looks like it's the end of his time at Arsenal. Eddie was out on that left last week. He wasn't comfortable there, but when he was up top, he didn't impress. We have to be honest. So linking Gabriel Martinelli and Eddie Nketiah was poor tonight. Let's be real, especially when it came to those big chances there. Like he didn't really have a big chance. Like as it wasn't as big of a chance as Martinelli had to score when he chested it up, and his first touch let him down. His first touch made it look like a half chance. When no. It should have been a full chance, but his first touch with his chest went up instead of down to the ground, where you can get the shot off and you can get it clean and you can keep it down. He chested it up and he got underneath the ball and it went over. So Martinelli, not a great performance today at all, to be honest. Who else? Yeah, let's have a look, actually. Let's have a look who else in terms of rotation. Sambi Lokonga, already spoken about him. Fabio Vieira, let's get a little bit positive on this, because this was much better from Fabio Vieira today. He was awful against PSV last week. Let's be honest, he didn't have a great game, and he struggled. And you know what? It's still early days in terms of building himself in becoming that Premier League player, becoming a player for Arsenal that we can rely, we can trust week in, week out. He certainly has the quality. We've seen it in flashes, we've seen it in moments. We saw it in plenty of flashes today, but just to get to that level, of course, we're still giving him time. It's a bit more positive looking at Fabio Vieira, and hopefully this is something that he personally can build upon and build with. But yeah, and that's one of the other rotation players in there. Rob Holding. This is the problem with Rob Holding. He can be Jekyll and Hyde. One week he was amazing. The next week, I didn't think he was bad throughout the game, but similar to Lokonga, those big moments there where we need you to step up and we need you to carry us through the game. You didn't do that there. And that partnership with Saliba, I don't think it works as well. This is why Gabriel and Saliba are so good together. Just like every good centre-back partnership, you need one that does one job and who excels in one area and has qualities to balance out your flaws or your not areas where you're not as strong. I don't think Holding does that with Saliba. But yeah, there wasn't really anything I could say about Saliba. What he made an error in this. I don't think he did. But he just the defense was nowhere near as commanding. Kieran Tierney. Yeah, I can see why Arteta, in terms of how he wants this Arsenal team to play, if he wants his left back to be inverted and coming into midfield and picking up the ball in those central areas, whilst Martinelli's keeping that width out there, it's still very unnatural for Kieran Tierney, and it's still an area that he needs to develop. So that's why I can understand, alongside his injuries and keeping his, and being wary of that in terms of Tierney, why Arteta's been a little bit reluctant to play him in certain games. So yeah, he's still learning in that, and he's nowhere near as comfortable in possession as Zinchenko, who we sorely miss when we play this way, certainly. And it's a worry now with Zinchenko. We don't know when he's going to be back. Similar injury to Tomiyasu, and it's happening in a similar way. How many games did we think Tomiyasu was going to come back next season? One more game. Are we looking at, is he back? Is he training? No. And then eventually, 2-3 months later, he returns, and then he picks up a recurrence of that injury. So, yeah, not great. Not great news, not filled with optimism in that left back spot. And I wouldn't be surprised if Tomiyasu plays there again on Sunday. But if Kieran Tierney gets that opportunity, yeah, I think that not just, it's hard to really go in on individuals, but I'm never going to be that person to go right in on individuals like that anyway, because it's a team game. And when one player is not playing as well, then it's hard to really go into them when there's others because it's difficult. You can't carry any passengers at this level. It's a top level of football. It's Sunday League. It's not even Saturday League. You can't carry anyone. And we're playing, and it's European football. I know Europa League, PSV are a good side. We knew it was the toughest challenge that we were going to face this season. We knew that. And you know what? There's more questions than answers in terms of us and definitely regarding what a lot of the main heavy critics have been of Arsenal. That squad depth, not trusting that. That's why I'm a little bit. That's what, not me. This is what the critics are saying. I'm a little bit skeptical around Arsenal. Yeah, they've done really well. Credit where credit's due, but the squad depth, we've heard about that. And this is where I'm going to bang this drum again about the World Cup. I think this is a benefit for Arsenal, not a hindrance, because with the squad depth that we have right now, with the glaring issues that we have in terms of depth and dropping quality, that brings us closer to this January window where for us to capitalize and to really, really feel assured of top four, no matter what, really, unless there's a ridiculous injury crisis that happens, we need to be looking at two players, right? Like in the summer, I know I want more than that because I'm looking at, right, so low priority positions, I would say, is that centre back at that left centre back side, because we saw the drop off in quality from Gabriel. It's there to see. It's clear with Rob Holding, so that's a low priority one. You'd also possibly say another low priority one, of course, is in that midfield with Xhaka in there. We don't really have anyone to compete with him and replace with him unless Lokonga develops and becomes that player. We don't know, but whilst the question is there, we've got to look at that as another low priority area that we can fix. And then another one, which a lot of people might say, and we've got plenty of comments to get through, is that maybe the striker is becoming more and more of a priority. But that's another low one that I would look to try and address in the summer, unless Eddie Nketiah has another like breakout, or he just goes in there and he has a point where he's starting loads of games, he's getting a lot of consistent minutes, and his performances there are increasing. But right now, those are low priorities. However, the two areas that we seriously need to address is in that defensive midfield position. The drop off from Partey is wild. I do not expect to get a player of Thomas Partey's quality, because they're just not they're just not out there. Man United were searching for one for years, and they've got one of the best in the world now in Casemiro in that area of the pitch. Chelsea are looking for that position there. Liverpool are also in that market, and that's just to name a couple of Premier League clubs. There's plenty in and around Europe, top clubs that are looking to improve in that area and bolster. So yes, we certainly do need to. All I want is just competent, like literally just a slight upgrade. Really, I'm Mohamed El Nene. Like I want to, like that's how much I like El Nene, and I like the job that he does and the role that he plays. If we can get that upgrade in of El Nene, a better player than El Nene, doesn't have to be miles better, then honestly, I think we'll be okay, and certainly for the rest of the season. And then also on that wide area, someone who is adept to playing at both, preferably across the front three. That would be nice. Someone who can fill in that number 9 position and give us something different. But most importantly, that can play on both flanks, because Vieira, he was good there, but Martinelli now, whatever the reason is for his performance, needs to be rotated. We're relying too much upon Martinelli and Saka to. And yes, Arteta said that he wants to play them in 60, 70 games, and they're going to have to get to that level. If they reach the level, they're going to have to do that if they're going to get to the level that we as Arsenal fans and the coaching staff believe they can get to. And that's what the best players in the world do. And if we think they're the best youngsters in the world, they're going to need to get there eventually. They are in their 20s, and there's young 22, 23 Vinicius Juniors and those likes of who are playing that many games. So they are going to have to reach that, but they're not going to have to do it alone. we do need a winger, and that's why a midfielder and a winger attacker, you know, whatever you see that can cover those particular areas and give us similar in terms of their explosiveness, their directness and quality in the decision making, and you know that youth, even that youthful exuberance and that intensity. I don't mind that, just as long as we get someone in those areas. But yeah, definitely midfield and wide areas. But after sounding a bit negative, I will end on a positive. We are still top of the group, people. Yeah, we have got Zurich in our next game. Yes, it's not ideal in terms that we're going to have to put out we're going to have to play some decent level of players, and just to make sure we see the game through and finish top. Because if we do finish top, that takes us straight to the round of 16. We don't have to play the round of 32, which is 2 extra games against one of those Champions League dropouts, which we saw yesterday, and it could be Tottenham, but we wouldn't play them because of the way the draw happens. But you know, could be a Barcelona, could be a Juventus, could be an Atletico Madrid, and vice versa. So yeah, that's kind of my brief overview, but I want to kind of touch upon some points that you guys are saying in the live chat. And if you're watching afterwards, get in the comments, let me know your thoughts, ask any questions as well, and I'll engage with you in there tonight or tomorrow. So yeah, defo people, but make sure you smash the like button if you haven't done so already. Big up yourself. I know how saying big up all the people. I'm on holiday, but love to all the TTF. Enjoy the show, and don't forget to take your shoes off. You know what he means by that. Take that shoes off. When you step to someone's yard, you take your shoes off and you hit the like button. Big up yourself, Shay. Hope you're keeping good, my bro. And guys, you can also follow me on Twitter as well. Shay's been interacting there a lot. And big up yourself, Shay. You're a top guy indeed. Big up yourself. Errol says unlucky tonight. Yeah, he's unfortunately it wasn't unlucky. We deserved we deserved to lose in the end after the second half performance, in my humble but honest opinion. But accurate, not honest. See, I've messed it up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Wesburn. I'm sorry, Wilf. But yeah, Mr. 200 says missing Zinchenko as well. I do think we do. I do think we are missing Zinchenko's presence and his calmness and his technical ability in midfield to overload in those areas and really assert our dominance. I do think you're right. We are missing Zinchenko, and his respect, and yeah, you know, naturally absence makes the heart grow fonder. But even if you're looking at it from a tactical perspective, I know Mikel Arteta, you know as well, Mr. 200, and you know as well, Arsenal fans, that we are missing Zinchenko. With how Tierney and Tomiyasu have been trying to play in those areas, I think Martinelli, his performance is the drop in his performance is a factor to missing Zinchenko, where he allows him and he gives him that freedom to take up that left flank and really remain wide. And where Zinchenko comes inside, can play these nice passes, nice bits of trickery, and really open up the game, and he's a bit like Partey in that sense. When he's on the ball, you don't know where he's going to play it next. He's not predictable at all. Whereas I think Tierney and Tomiyasu, you kind of know where they're going with their next pass. So yeah, definitely Mr. 200, and pick up yourself as per usual. The grind of the season is kicking in, and we'll do more for squads as small as Arsenal. Exactly. Yeah, there's not. To be honest, you know what? There's quite a few of the top sides that are operating with small squads at the moment. We see Manchester United working with a relatively small squad, even though they've got numbers, but they don't really have quality in those areas, which is why Erik ten Hag is really trusting a certain core group of players. Manchester City, yes, their squad depth comes through versatility, and if we are going to get to that level one day, we are going to need to address those two areas at the very least in January, so we can get there as soon as possible. Even who else are we talking about? Tottenham, right? Tottenham have got a lot of players. They're sitting in third, and they're working with a small squad in that sense, with not many numbers in terms of that. Even though Antonio Conte signed a lot of players that haven't necessarily broke straight into the first team. But yeah, so it's interesting that these managers, they're all trying to operate with a small squad in this season. So Maybe it might benefit the bigger squads in the long run, such as a Liverpool, who are ridiculous in well, the injury crisis that they're facing makes their squad look a lot smaller. But Chelsea also have a huge squad and a huge plethora of players to pick from. So maybe it will. Ilias says Nketiah is so bad, the worst striker I've seen in my life. Get rid of him. 100k and number 14, and that kind of links with King's question here. What is your view on Eddie Nketiah? Man, King, right. So this is where I've once again I'm being lenient on Nketiah because he wasn't the only poor performer tonight. He was poor. So King and Ilias, yes, he was poor. His hold-up play was nowhere near as good as good enough, or nowhere near the level of Jesus, but nowhere near the minimum standard that we needed it to be, if we have to be honest and truthful. But this is where the leniency comes in. And I know it might sound crazy, but it's true. The pitch, not even the pitch, the players tonight were slipping and sliding like it was an ice rink. Not just us, PSV players were doing it as well. And yeah, that's why I thought it was difficult for the strikers really to get a grip of the game until Luke de Jong came on. And that's where the ball was played long into his chest. He was bringing it down. And Eddie Nketiah, that's not a part of his game. So I wasn't impressed. I thought it was a massive opportunity for him tonight to try and stake a claim with Gabriel Jesus not looking as sharp as he has done prior to the Liverpool game. And he could have got on that door knocking and saying, you know what, get me into the Forest game. And it's not, he doesn't even need to score to do that. He just needs to show something that will make Arteta make a decision. And I don't think he did tonight. And Jesus starts against Nottingham Forest, not just because he started on the bench, but the fact that Eddie Nketiah didn't give anything to make the manager question, or even to give Gabriel Jesus to worry about. So yeah, big up yourself as well, man. Saying fresh trim, nice to big up yourself, man. Really appreciate that. Ruben Neves, Edson Alvarez, Ilias, you're talking my language, indeed. I like these types of players. Edson Alvarez, you know what? I need to be a bit more clued up. I know he was linked to Chelsea in this at the end of the summer transfer window. They tried to make that signing, but Ajax said no at that stage. They sold too many of their players. But yeah, I like his profile when we're talking about him. A defensive midfielder who can break up play defensively. He's not bad on the ball. You know, Ajax way. You have to be decent at progressing the ball. And you know what? We're talking about that level above an El Nene. He's that right there, and he'll give us a defensive and physical presence in that midfield. And then Ruben Neves, I can't, bro. This Elias, this guy, I'm so, how he's still at Wolves. It's credit to Wolves and the contract and everything that they've done to make sure he stays there. But what a baller this is! Certainly, he can play. I'm not saying he starts, but he can play in any midfield in the world, and he'll look fine. He'll look comfortable. Serious baller, man. And if we got him into the side, boy, oh boy, we're talking massive competition for Partey right there. Serious talk, man. Like, this guy would be an excellent ball progressor, excellent defensively, tracking spaces, bring leadership qualities, a great mentality, reliability in terms of his fitness. That would be perfect, Ruben Neves. So yeah, but great shouts right there in for that midfield spot. Big up yourself, Ilias, each and every time. Easy take, but I did say during the preview before last season, Arsenal's midfield is very light. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and that's what a lot of people, and we knew that as well, because as we looked in towards as we tried to sign Douglas Luiz at the end of the transfer window, we 25-30 million bids, but they were getting rejected. Arsenal knew that too, and especially when you pick up an injury to El Nene in there, who is meant to be that midfield cover. Yeah, man, it is light indeed, bro. It is. Big up yourself, Mohammed. I'm going to do another stream after this. So yeah, I'm not going to spend too long on this one here, brother. But yeah, big up yourself each and every time. I hope you're keeping good. Midfield worry me. Don't have any cover for Partey, and no one seems able to replace Xhaka. Vieira is still raw, and Sambi looks lost in that sixth role. Cannot disagree with a single word that you said, because it is spot on. We are heavily reliant on Partey, even in a ball progression sense, in and out of possession. Granit Xhaka, phenomenal this season, but we were linked with Tielemans. We wanted him, King. We did. We was looking at a midfielder, and we were saying, you know what, we wanted a midfielder in that area to compete with Granit Xhaka. We don't have that currently. And it's and Xhaka's going to be now suspended for this next game. We should be all right without Granit Xhaka against Zurich. But even he played against Zurich in the last one. He's played in every game. And you know what? He's been phenomenal, Granit Xhaka. But yeah, we do need competition for places, and we are looking light, as Ed said. And just to say on Vieira, still looking raw once again, a bit like Erdegaard, had flashes, but didn't take the game by the scruff of the neck. You know the way that we've seen Martinelli and Saka do at points. They are more seasoned and well settled into this squad, but they are also at a ridiculous level for their ages, and which is why we're relying upon them so heavily. And the final one about Sambi looking lost in six. He's not a six, is he? Well, he certainly isn't one now. I'm not. This is where when people are being ridiculous, like I think if you're being completely dismissive of Sambi Lokonga playing in the six role at any point in his career, this is where I will say, Mandem, people relax, yeah, because how many times have we seen like no Partey wasn't a six before he came to Arsenal, and even when he came to Arsenal, when he played in that six role by himself, he looked lost. Do you remember the Villarreal game? He looked lost, but he had to grow into that. And Sambi's young. He may do, but right now, today, on the 27th of October, 2022, Sambi Lokonga, he's not good enough to be playing in that six role for Arsenal. So definitely agree with you there. Come on, guys, we need to get this to 100k likes. Big up yourself, Wilf, as well. And yes, listen to Ed right here. Preview show coming after this. He's giving us the grind this evening. Indeed. Big up Pablo Mar. Serious? Oh my word. Big up, nah, man. Pablo Mari each and every time. That's horrendous news. Just talking about a left-sided centre back. That's crazy. Hopefully he's doing all right, man. But now, big up yourself, Ilias, for bringing that to us. But yeah, man, big up, prayers out for Pablo Mari each and every time. That's awful to hear. Yeah, missing Zinni bad, not gonna lie. I'm a little concerned about our current form. It's the second half, isn't it? It's the second half that we're worrying about. Once again, the first half, I didn't think we were that bad, but 3 out of 4 second halves where our levels have dropped. There are factors, as I said, Wilf. A lot of games, not just us, but other teams are facing as well, and you're seeing the drop off in their performances. But yeah, World Cup can't come soon enough. I honestly do think it's a benefit for us. Where people were questioning if it's a hindrance, I think it will help us as it will take less. We'll miss out a bunch of Premier League games, getting us closer to January, where we can try and adjust this. He says, I still love Eddie. Love you too. Oh wow, we got love in the chat. Ed Celos Neves, I promise to bring you a gold medal to you if whatever we win. Yeah, he can cover Partey and Sambi. T, do you think with Eddie that he is not a good sub in centre forward? Either start him or you won't get the best out of him. Do you know what? Yes, he's not an impact sub like that. But there has been games where he has impacted us off the bench, and I thought he had a very good performance. Well, you know, he had a very good influence and performance against when we played Fulham in that 2-1 win. In that 2-1 win. Right. So yeah, I do think that is a big So he can do that. But he also, what we saw last season, he needs a run of games. So there is credence to your point, King. There is definite there's definite facts and knowledge and to back that point up. And I do think you are right. Yeah. It's difficult, man. It is difficult with Eddie Nketiah. It's a big season for him. It surely is, because there's a lot of eyes on him with that 100k contract, as Ilias said, the number 14 on his back. I'm willing to give him time. I'm still like Wilf. I still love him. But tonight, it's an L for us. It's an L for us in terms of Eddie. I do think he can get to that, and he has shown that he can improve, and he's developed in such a short space of time. So maybe now as this team's getting better, if we do get better as well, maybe we'll create more chances for Eddie and we'll get there. Whereas Gabriel Jesus, we create more chances with him because he creates his own chances. Eddie doesn't do that as much. He does actually create his own chances, but in a different way. He does it by pouncing on errors and making goalkeepers and defenders make mistakes, whereas Jesus can have a little bit of magic and trickery to get into those areas, and his physical strength as well. If Eddie can get to 100k a week, Tereak can get to 100k likes. Hey, put Mr. 200 the day we do that. You know what I mean? Whatever comes from that likes, you're getting a nice little agent fee for that. Serious T will fill you in on the preview. Indeed, indeed. 100% King. Eddie needs to start to get the best out of him. And yeah, this is what I was saying. Yeah, you came in a little bit later when I said this, Wilf, but this is where it's a massive opportunity for Eddie Nketiah to knock on that door and say, I'm starting, or I've got to give make Arteta make a decision against Forest, which I don't think he does anymore. So the opportunities will come. Jesus will need rotating again, and he will pick up injuries because this ridiculous season like this. Eddie's gonna have to take it. He took the opportunity last season, so I'm hoping he can take it again this season and prove those doubters and critics wrong. But yeah, guys, I'm going to wrap this up here. You know, I actually feel better now. I don't feel anywhere near as angry or anything like that. The game, talking about it with you guys, just even, what, you just talking with you guys has made me feel better about it. And we're still top of the group. We're still top of the Premier League as well. Our areas of concern, but let's get closer to January. Do you know what? Don't care about performances anymore. Give me results. Yeah, up until this period. Yes, I still want to see good and entertaining football for spells. But yeah, just like if we did in that Southampton game, take those opportunities when they come. If you do 2-0 up against a Forest, then that's where you can take your foot off the gas. You can bring on your Sambies and all them things and rest players up and get them ready for Zurich or Chelsea next week. And we know how big that game is. So yeah, but we got to face Nottingham Forest first. And if you want to hear more about Arsenal versus Nottingham Forest, don't go anywhere, people. I'm going to wrap this match reaction up, but me and my brother Edmund are going to be still with you. So don't go anywhere. Okay, love to you all, my people. Before I go, King dropped a comment saying still top of the league and the group. We just need a good win on Sunday and we'll forget about this PSV performance. Indeed. Big up yourself, man. And yes, guys, get ready. The prediction show is coming up with the previews and my lovely gorgeous brother Edmund as well. So yeah, this is where I become the sidekick. All right, on Tereak Talks. But I hope you're keeping good, people. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a bit. Love to you all. Like, share, subscribe. We are out for now. So peace.